Hello guys, and welcome to this video on the introduction to complex numbers. I know it's been a seriously long time since I've posted a video, and I say that's mainly because I'm in uni now and everything's obviously a lot more busier with that, but I feel like making a YouTube channel is just something I still really enjoy. So I've decided that I should probably still put some aside, even though it probably won't be a lot of time, but definitely I can still put away some time that's dedicated to my YouTube channel. And I just thought that I would probably just slowly go through some of the NCEA standards and hopefully cover every little nook and cranny and then move on to other NCEA standards. So I just thought might as well just start with one of my favorites, level 3 calculus, and we might as well just start with complex numbers. So let's get started with this introduction to complex numbers. So basically, you might have heard before that we define I is equal to the square root of -1. So we write here that I is equal to the square root of -1. So therefore, if you ever had this equation x squared equals to, let's say, -1, then obviously there are no real solutions to this equation, because if there's a real solution, then that means that any real number times a real number will always be positive, and therefore this will never ever be true. However, mathematicians have defined a I, which is square root of -1. So if we take x squared of square root of -1, we get -1. So this is basically just giving a solution to the equation x squared equals -1. So now we can say that x is equal to plus or minus I, which is the solution to this equation. So that's enough of the introduction to complex numbers. So I thought we just start off with some really basic addition, subtraction, and multiplication of complex numbers. Addition, subtraction, and multiplication. Alright, so let's say we have I, and we want to add 3i onto I. So what would this expression evaluate to be? So basically, we can just treat I as a variable in itself. So if we have a 1i and we have 3i's, if we put them together, obviously we're going to have 4i's. So this is going to be equal to 4i's. Very simple. And very similar with subtraction. If we say we have 3i's at the start and we want to take away 6i, then we have 3i, we take away 6i, we're going to be left with -3i. So in terms of addition and subtraction, you can really just treat this I like any other variable, maybe like x or y that you've been very used to every day. And it's just very same as if you have 3i's, you take away 6i's, then you obviously have -3i's. If you have 1i and you give yourself 3 more i's, you're going to have 4i's. In terms of multiplication, it's slightly a bit more challenging, because we do know that from this equation here, I equals square root of -1, we do know that I squared is equal to -1. So this is an equation that you're going to be using very much in complex numbers, and you will be expected to remember it. So I squared equals -1, and that comes from the very definition of I being the square root of -1. So let's say we want to multiply some complex numbers. Let's start off easy. We'll say that we have I, and let's just multiply that with 2i. So if we write this out as, let's say that I is just any other variable, so this is going to be 2 times of I, which is 2i squared. I mean, technically, you could just leave your answer as 2i squared. However, we do know that I squared is equal to -1. That's the very definition of what I is. So it is the correct syntax. We're going to change the I squared into -1. So this equals to 2 times of -1, and that is -2. Alright, so let's try a slightly harder example. So we'll say that example 2, we can say that we have 2i plus 2, and we want to multiply that by 4i minus 3. So what is this going to evaluate to? Alright, so the technique that we're going to use here, we're just going to multiply out. So we're going to say we're just going to treat I as any other variable. We're just going to multiply out. We're going to start slow, and then we can get faster as we practice more. So in this case, we're going to have 2i times 4i, that is just 8i squared. And we have 2i times the -3, that is going to give us -6i. And we're going to have the +2 times the 4i, that's going to give us +8i. And we're going to have the 2 times the -3, and that is the -6. Alright, so looking at this equation, tell me what we can change. Obviously, we can change this I squared into -1. So we're going to say this is equal to 8 times of -1 minus 6i plus 8i minus 6. and we can group like terms. So in this case, we're going back to our addition and subtraction. So negative 8 minus 6, that's obviously negative 14. And we have negative 6i plus 8i, and that's obviously plus 2i. Alright, and obviously this is, you don't actually, in your exams, in your future, you don't actually have to write out 8i squared. Once you get a bit more confident, you can directly just see that 4i times 2i, that's negative 8. You have 2 i's, I squared is going to give you negative 1. So however, since we're just starting slow, I think we should write out the i squared in full and then simplify from there, just to understand how we're getting to our final answers. So let's look at another example. Let's say we have I minus 1 multiplied by, let's say, 8i plus 2. So we're just going to follow the exact same procedure as we did in example number 2. It's a very similar question. So we have I times 8i, and that's going to give us 8i squared. We're going to have I times of 2, which that's going to give us positive 2i. And we're going to have negative 1 times 8i, that's going to be negative 8i. And negative 1 times positive 2, and that's negative 2. Alright, so now we're going to change the 8i squared into negative 8. And then we're going to write out everything on the right hand side. And finally, to end the question, we're going to group our like terms. So negative 8 minus 2, that's negative 10. And 2i minus 8i, that's negative 6i. Alright, so that's just some of the logistics and basics of complex numbers, how you can add, subtract, and multiply complex numbers together. It's really pretty straightforward if you know how to, if you know basic algebra and how to expand terms out, then you should be completely fine with this start to complex numbers. In 1.2, in video 1.2, we're going to be covering division of complex numbers.